You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday, 25th day of July, 2018. Hope you're having a great Wednesday based on your time zone. You may be over the hump, as they say, and headed into the downward slide into the weekend. And those of us in other time zones like Pacific, I live in the desert, but I'm on Pacific time. Go figure. Anyway, we'll be on that downward slide with you in just a couple of hours. So thanks for joining us today. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, a special welcome to you. We are certainly glad to have you with us. A reminder, anything that you type into the chat box, any questions that you have, any comments, no one sees what you type except myself or Michael or Bert if he happens to be in. And a big round of the bell for Bert. He stepped in this morning. Michael had to take off a little bit early from the live training room. I was busy doing the one trade a days, the daily double. And so, Bert, if you're listening in, thank you so very much for helping us out there. We appreciate it very much. And you know, when Bert's in there teaching, I kind of like to just sit in the background and watch and listen. He really does a fantastic job. And every Thursday, he even does a webinar with our tools and our strategy and all of that. And if you've never been to one, I encourage you this Thursday, whether you're a new partner or you're on a trial, deciding if you want to become a partner, let Bert give you what he and I refer to as a sort of a slow motion tour of everything that you see in the live training room. But his delivery is so different than Michael's and different from mine that it really benefits you, the individual that wants to learn how to trade, because you have not one, not two, but 3 people you can turn to with questions, request help, request a mentoring session, one-on-one. So again, Bert, thank you very much. I don't have my applause sound clip loaded, but we appreciate it. Okie doke. I've got a chart up of the S&P 500 Emini Futures, as I do, and if you can't see it, you can fix that by going to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in 30 seconds, and you'll have one-click access to the show all the way through the end of the month. Yeah. First of the month, we do the registration again, another 30 seconds, and it gives us another 30 days. Now, you can also go to youtube.com/CFRN/live, and right there, bookmark that page, and you'll have one-click access every single day. Now, Michael had to take off a bit early today, and so tomorrow he will update you on what happened in the live training room today, as well as what happens in the live training room tomorrow. John is going to join us a little bit early today because of that. And so, as we wait on John, a couple things I want to mention to you. One being, this is let me just share it. No commentary needed. The average monthly payment in the Russian crypto industry has fallen by 40% from the 2017 levels, according to data released by the recruiting platform HH.ru. I don't know. Employers are generally paying less for securities analysts, project managers, and legal experts. 100,000 rubles, which is roughly $1,600 US. PR specialists, public relations specialists, on the other hand, are still in high demand. Despite that, the salaries offered for these experts have fallen by 50%, from 800,000 rubles in December, which is 12 grand US, to 400,000, 6 grand. It's still a very high wage for Russian standards. Now, experts explain the downward trend with the bearish crypto markets this year and the cooling interest towards cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Nevertheless, reports of some 100 new vacancies posted by crypto and blockchain companies in the first half of 2018 indicates a stable demand for expertise in the sector. Besides PR specialists, fintech businesses are also willing to offer good salaries to tech directors, up to 600,000 rubles, and software developers, 300,000 rubles. The average salary in the crypto industry in the first half of this year is estimated at about $2,700 US. Towards the end of 2017, it was closer to $4,600. So everything seems to be kind of coming back down to earth. People are starting to think rationally again. And I think that's a great thing and a great opportunity. In the City of London, a City of London police spokeswoman has confirmed the launch of a new cryptocurrency course at their Economic Crime Academy. It's designed to provide delegates with the skills and knowledge required to recognize and manage cryptocurrencies in an investigation. On successful completion of this course, participants will understand how to detect, seize, and investigate the use of cryptocurrencies in an investigative context. It will be the first of its kind and has been developed in response to feedback from police officers nationally who felt there wasn't enough training available in the area. She also added that a pilot of the course was already conducted and another's planned for August. The police are getting schooled on this thing called crypto. Now, speaking of police, Ross Ulbricht, that name may or may not ring a bell with you. Ross was the quiet, mild-mannered college boy who was behind the billion-dollar enterprise known as Silk Road. Now, that was on the dark web. I took you guys on a tour of the dark web a few years ago. You have to use a special browser to get there. It's really not a place you want to go, a place you want to hang out. Silk Road was a place that you could buy drugs of any description, and they would be shipped right to your door. You could have hitmen. My goodness, the list goes on. And it was all masterminded and ran by this young man, Ross Ulbricht, from a laptop. And when they finally tracked him down and figured out who the kingpin was, he was in a library in San Francisco. He had left his apartment or his house, walked to the coffee shop. It was too crowded. Went on to the library, opened up his laptop, hooked up to the Wi-Fi, started to take care of a little bit of business, and the police leapt out and said, I don't know, freeze or whatever. Because keep in mind, if there's probably some key, I mean, this guy was a computer genius, there's probably some key on that keyboard that he could have hit and just whoosh, wiped out the whole Silk Road. But he didn't, and they got him, and he was sentenced, and he was, now it runs deeper, because on the surface he was this mild-mannered college young man, but he actually ended up being indicted for murder. He tried to use his own Silk Road, apparently, to hire, he went by the name Dread Pirate Roberts. That was his online name, his screen name. Principal operator of underground online marketplace Silk Road. Many legal analysts concluded that the looming Maryland indictment prejudiced law enforcement in at least advocating aggressive sentencing in Mr. Ulbricht's case. He is serving multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. Now, the United States Attorney for the District of Maryland explained his reasoning for what is now happening. Mr. Ulbricht's conviction and life sentence in the case handled by the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York have been affirmed by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and the Supreme Court has declined to hear the case. We have dismissed the federal charges based on the same conduct pending against Mr. Ulbricht in Maryland, which allows us to direct our resources to other cases where justice has not yet been served. Phone calls to the Maryland U.S. Attorney's Office were answered by public affairs specialists, and a nearly two-decade veteran working in one form or another in the U.S. Attorney's Office, though familiar with Ulbricht's high-profile prosecution in the Southern District, she mentioned being unaware that the U.S. Attorney had filed a motion to dismiss the 2013 indictment. Asked flatly if the motion meant anything relevant to Mr. Ulbricht's ultimate guilt or innocence, she preferred not to comment. She did, however, stipulate that Mr. Ulbricht's having already been convicted and how there was nothing to be found by keeping open the 2013 12-page indictment. She used phrasing such as district overlap, almost making the motion to dismiss more of a formality rather than exoneration. Asked also if the motion could be typical administrationism, an effort to clear the legal calendars. She said, "You wouldn't be wrong." Still, Mr. Ulbricht seemed most obviously relieved, tweeting this: "Just found out the government moved to drop the case against me in Maryland. What a huge weight off my shoulders that will be." He's currently in a Colorado federal prison serving a life sentence without parole. His Twitter account is maintained by family and supporters. Now, if you're in prison serving a life sentence, I'm not sure why this other case, and maybe some of you great legal minds in the audience might want to school me on this, I'm not sure why he was so concerned about that, unless a death penalty was on the table. Though the Maryland indictment was sealed previously and separate from the indictment from which Mr. Ulbricht was found guilty, media stories with headlines touting murder for hire were considered prejudicial at the very least. Ross was convicted on a range of charges, from various cybercrimes to drug trafficking and money laundering. His conviction and sentencing were appealed, ending at a recent Supreme Court decision to uphold the lower court's findings. A particular concern was the life sentence, and his legal team argued it was the Maryland indictment never formally acted upon that caused the judge to hand down such a heavy punishment. More recently, supporters at freeross.org mounted a presidential pardon petition on the website change.org. Recently, the petition had close to 35,000 signatures. This is a really fascinating story. Now, this Silk Road was obviously a criminal enterprise, a very evil place. I can't even imagine how many lives were ruined because of it. However, the story of Ross Ulbricht, who was, by a mild-mannered college young man, nice upbringing, I think, wealthy family. You should read the story. I'm sure you can find it online. Not an abbreviated excerpt, but one of the magazines that did, or one of the websites that did a full-blown story on it, Silk Road. If you haven't read the story, if you don't know the story, now Silk Road was the place to go for all those illegal things, and I hear that in its wake others have sprung up and been taken down, but as soon as one's taken down, a couple more spring up. When you run a search on Google for most anything, you will bring back a tremendous number of results. Correct? We can agree on that. Now, this is what's really interesting. Let's see. Oh, I don't know. Flying car. We'll search for flying car. It brought back 485 million results. Okay, so just think about that for a minute. Now, that's just an oddball thing. If we took flying out and just put in a car, I can't even say that number. See, that's how big it is. Now, I said all that to say this. Only 20% of the quote, end quote, I'm doing air quotes here because it's radio, only 20% of what's on the internet is discoverable by Google and other search engines. There's this thing called the deep web and this thing called the dark web. The deep web is not necessarily nefarious. The dark web is nothing but nefarious. But now think about it. We just searched Google for a common term. How about if we say car flying upside down? How do you possibly still get 12 million results? Now you can tighten that up, and I'm sure you don't need any instructions from me on how to do a Google search, but see, now with those quotations, we brought it down to 258, which is pretty reasonable, because before we were bringing back anything with the word flying in it, or upside, or down, and car. You follow me? So, however, car flying upside down, we still got 258 results. But the real point that I'm attempting to make is that Google only searches, mines, and collects data from 20% of what we refer to as the internet. 80% of it, you can't get there with Google. You can't get there with an ordinary browser. You can't run a search and find these businesses and enterprises and organizations and things and stuff and databases that exist below the surface. So it's kind of like going outside at night on a bright, starry night and looking up at the sky and all those stars, and you go, wow, God, you do good work. And he does. Let's take a look at the numbers around the world. Let's see what's going on. And here at home and places far away, these are cash markets. We'll talk about futures in a moment. Currently, the Dow is down 41 points. The NASDAQ is up 41. S&P 500 is up 5.5, and the Russell 2000 is flat. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 95 cents. We had inventories today. That's a change of over 1.25%. And crude oil traded 69.47 last. Gold added $3.20 today, trading 1228.70 last. In the Asian markets, the Nikkei ended the session up 103 points. The Shanghai was down a little over 1, and the Hang Seng added 258 points. That's almost 1%. And in the European markets, nothing green there. FTSE down 50 points at the close. DAX down 110. And the CAC lost 8 on the session. Asia was mixed. Europe, red. And here at home, we are mixed as well. Now, typically when the S&P is positive 5 points, the Dow will be positive approximately 50 points, 10-to-1 ratio. This has been going on ever since I started trading futures back in 2005. If the Dow is negative 50 points, the S&P will tend to be negative about 5 points. So currently at the moment we have the Dow negative almost 50 points and the S&P positive by 5 points. So their paths have diverged, but by the end of the day, by the time the bell tolls, they will, on most days, 99% of the time, they'll end up on the same side of the street, and that 10-to-1 ratio will make itself evident. So the question, of course, then to a trader is like, well, okay, which one's got it right? Is the Dow going to join the S&P in positive territory, Or is the S&P going to join the Dow in negative territory? Or will they meet at the flat line? All great questions. So glad you asked. Let's take a look and see exactly what did happen. Oh, yesterday on the NQ, I thought that was must be this NQ. Yes, yesterday we put on a live radio trade. Consider being long 74.28 to 74.38, and we did trigger right here. And John's here. He's going to be joining us in just 1 second as soon as I open up his mic. So this was a live trade from the radio yesterday, 74.28 up to 74.38. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So as you can see, we did the 28 to the 38, got back below the trigger, and did the 38 again. So that's 10 NASDAQ points at $20 a point. So each one of those moves, that one and that one, was worth about $200 per contract traded. All right, let's get John's mic open. I'm coming. John Michael normally does this. There we go. Hey, John, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us.
Hi. Yeah, hi. Thanks very much. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Glad to have you.
Yeah, the market kind of stumbled a bit this morning. In fact, it was down overnight, but it's starting to come back, and it kind of looks like it's going to continue to rally into Friday's GDP. It's hard to say what the direction might be because, you know, we had, when Google came out with the very strong earnings, they got knocked down a bit to start with, and they're coming back up right now, and kind of laying the groundwork for what's likely to be higher prices. And same with pretty much everything. As a matter of fact, Apple is about the highest level it's ever been right now, just going to a new all-time high. Facebook's also at the highest level it's ever been. It's you know, getting closer to our target of 230, which it looks like it's going to probably hit. It's like I said a few days ago, and have said many times, you know, this we got the GDP figure coming out on Friday, which could be anywhere from 4.1% to 5.3%. And when Google are blowing away earnings, and Facebook doing the same, and Microsoft, it's you know, the next quarter it's going to be the same. They're going to be doing, but conceivably they're going to be doing this well, you know, as long as we keep growing at this rate. So, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. So, you know, all things being equal, and look, you've just, I mean, the crazy thing about it is you've got the Fed kind of raising rates here in the US and generally putting a bit of a damper on the growth, but there's still stimulating in Europe at a very rapid clip. You know, I think it's 10 billion a month or something going into the end of the year. Might be more. I'm not quite sure. I think it's about 10, maybe it could be more. Japan, I think, is still stimulating, and China just joined the party, and it's stimulating like never before. Apparently, it's really pulled out all the stops here in the last, you know, in the last few days. So the Chinese stocks are acting very well. That three-wave pullback that I identified, that happened since the beginning of the year. And remember, this hit a lot of the global markets. A lot of the overseas markets have got a totally different profile from the US markets. And but, you know, the fact that we've had a three-wave pullback and that we're now potentially going to head up to new highs in the Chinese market, potentially new all-time highs, is really, you know, pretty bullish. You know, it's sort of going to extend this global rally in perpetuity, for quite a while to come.
Well, the Hang Seng added another 258 points today. The Shanghai was down. Just a point.
Yesterday, as we identified this bottom, it went a little bit low. It spiked down and then it reversed, if you remember. And I said there was a sort of a baby head and shoulders on it, intraday head and shoulders, which then it gapped up, and then it gapped up a little bit yesterday, but it's not at the same pace. But the trend has changed, and given the clarity of this three-wave pullback, it really looks like this thing could go back up and test the highs for the year. And imagine, I mean, look, if the Chinese blink and reach some sort of an accommodation with Trump, and as the Europeans might this afternoon, the market will really explode higher. I mean, if they start, if these tariffs start coming off, the threat of these tariffs start coming off, you'll see these markets go dramatically higher. They'll have a really big rally, into new high territory.
Tell me again, what's supposed to happen this afternoon?
He's meeting with the European delegation.
Okay,
on these tariffs. And he tweeted out last night that wouldn't it be nice if we could lower tariffs, both sides could lower the tariffs, sort of dropping a hint. I don't think that's going to happen, but something might happen. They might have, the fact that Trump said that may indicate that, there's something going to happen that's going to be pretty positive by the time this meeting's over. Maybe not a total reduction of tariffs, but some sort of an accommodation. Yeah. Because, look, he's going to. I mean, if push comes to shove, he's gonna put 500 billion. He's gonna tax everything coming from China, and maybe even ratchet it up. So sooner or later, they're going to give in. I don't think he's quite handled it, as subtly as he could have. It's been a little bit of a bull in a china shop, but maybe they've had talks and they're not being listened to. I think the interesting development is what we talked about in the last few days, which is how potentially well the Mexican situation is going with the U.S. Since this new president got elected. I mean, I can't tell you. Look, doubling the minimum wage, in a place like Mexico where a lot of people are on minimum wage, doubling the minimum wage overnight is going to have a dramatic impact. I mean, they're going to double the minimum wage. They're going to reduce taxes on the spending taxes. The money going to save money in people's pockets. Literally from the get-go, they're going to cut a fairly large chunk of tax out of everybody's spending, daily spending.
But the money to fund those payrolls has got to come from somewhere.
Well, people are going to pay more costs. I mean, there might be some.
And thus we have inflation, right?
Potentially, yeah. And there's going to be, it might affect a lot of businesses, but they've got a pretty good deal already when they're not paying people very much, And I think bringing people up to a better payment standard is going to be very much welcomed, and but it's overall it's going to have I was looking at Russia's about 1.4 trillion GDP. Mexico's currently 1.2 trillion. I mean, this thing would pop the Mexican economy to about 1.7 trillion overnight, possibly even take it up to 2 trillion. And it's putting it, there's a lot of trillion economies out there, but there's only a handful of 2 trillion economies, and Mexico could be catapulted into the 2 trillion club pretty quickly. So it's very interesting because the tax cuts will stimulate a boom just like the U.S. and
I just
and they're going to spend a lot of money as well. So, you know, it's a very dramatic set of developments that are unfolding that I think largely are going to have very positive consequences. And
I just pulled this up, John. The average monthly income in Russia,
yeah,
$437 US per month.
uh,
Because we were at the beginning of the show, we were taking a look at what some of the software developers and PR people in the cryptocurrency field are earning in Russia. And
it's about the same in China, I think.
Well, it's yeah. I'm gonna punch China in right now and see what comes back. About China's average annual salary in China, $4,755.
Yeah, so it's pretty similar, but that's 2012, remember? So yeah.
Oh yeah, you didn't even see that. But why do they? You know, every time I pull up this type of information, it's like trying to get current data.
It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. Look, here's one that says it goes all the way up to 2018.
Yeah, see, it's a big difference. It's got, you know, that's Mexico's GDP per capita is about $10,000 per person, I think, but in the cities, it's much higher. It's about 12. It's about 30 or 40 in some of the cities.
Mexico. Mexican households have an average of 3.8 members, and the average household income is $843 a month.
Yeah, so it's about 10,000 a year. So the thing
that
is,
data is 3 years old, right there.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, look at it. I mean, compared with Russia and China. So imagine, I mean, that number is going to jump. You know, it's going to go up by at least 50%, maybe even double before too long. So the impact of that is going to be pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. But then you also, you know, you always have this situation that arises that when people who have never had, now this is the Hang Seng I brought up. This is a daily chart of the Hang Seng.
Yeah.
People who,
I mean, you can see the three-way. You see the three-way pullback there. It's really potentially very bullish. This thing starts getting up to 30,000 again in 31, 32. It's probably going to go all the way to a new high. You know.
well, this is.
I mean,
daily.
that's the, you know, that's the, you know, what's happened with the S&P is we didn't get the third leg, right? We didn't get the leg down with the S&P.
Boy, what a difference! Take now. Okay, here's the daily chart. Okay, now we shift out to a weekly. Boy, that paints a different picture.
Yeah, I mean, it looks very, very bullish. I mean, we've had a monster rally followed by this correction, you know, and usually with the size of correction tends to portend, if you like, the size of the next up leg. And to be honest with you, it looks like it could go to 40,000 based on this pullback. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and that's why, you know, you think about it. Look, we had an uninterrupted run in the Dow of about 10,000 points before this correction started, and we're, you know, the Dow hasn't had this extra leg down. It's so strong it didn't, you know, it's had a failed C wave, if you like, and it's now starting to head back towards the highs. At least the S&P is more, and the Nasdaq's already at new highs, and the mid caps are at new highs. So the situation in the U.S. is unbelievably bullish. And remember, this is, you know, you're talking about the first leg up of a new bull market. It's taken us 10,000 points higher. We've had a 3,000 point pullback, right? I mean, what, you know, what's the next leg? How big is the next leg going to be? It could be 5,000 points, could be 7,000 points. You know, it could be a pretty big deal. So that puts 30,000 in sight, and it puts possibly 32,000 in sight, 33,000. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it really could happen, because just China alone now doing this stimulus thing, you know, we've never been here before, because the world, you know, all this stimulus that's going on, this 30 trillion stimulus, even when they stop it, it just doesn't, you know, it has momentum. It has years of momentum that you know.
Oh yeah. So when you put the brakes on in your car,
yeah,
you don't stop immediately.
Doesn't stop. Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's going to be some time before they start tightening in Europe or anywhere else for that matter. So, but ultimately, and we may be seeing the early signs of it, you know, it's going to cause the world economy to overheat at some point, but we might be quite a few years from that happening, quite a few years away from that happening yet. You know, my bet is it's 2022. It's probably going to start happening early in the next decade. So, did you find that flying car?
I did, and I've got it loaded up here.
Yeah, it's a new one, and there's actually several new cars out of Fox featured a new flying car that I hadn't seen before. Yesterday.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. This is from the Israel Times. This video. I haven't watched it yet. Of course, you guys won't hear the. Now, I went to the article that you had given me. Okay, this is like an animation. But we'll take a look at the actual car here in just a second. This thing, I mean, you know, when they started talking about Amazon delivering packages by drones, I just imagined looking out my window and the sky being black, you know, with all these little machines scurrying to and fro. That, I haven't heard much about that. Did Amazon back away from that idea? Or are they still working on it? Or trying to get it approved?
It's probably coming, but you know, there's a lot of issues with it. It's like these things where, you know, I really have a hard time imagining these trucks driving around with no drivers in them, and, you know, and like $1 million worth of goods in a truck. I mean, you know, it's sort of and things coming down the street delivering stuff and things. It's a little bit far-fetched at this point.
Okay, now the article that you had, yeah, but you know, they made it for a moment there. It sounded like it was ready to happen. You know, like,
yeah.
In fact, they did some testing in the Seattle area, I think. Now, this is the article that you had directed me to. It's called the City Hawk. EVTOL.
Yeah, it's the same as what you showed, but it's a little bit more sleek, this one.
Here's some pictures of it.
I think the one they showed on Fox yesterday with the wings that come out from under the car, that's a really clever idea, and that's probably the way it's going to happen.
Now this is a bit of an odd looking bird here, I gotta say.
Yeah, it is, because you sort of look and say, where's the wings, you know, because it kind of looks as if it might kind of roll over.
Capable of 170 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. But you know what I think is so fascinating is you've got all these prototypes popping up around the world. And you know, I think the winner is probably going to be an amalgamation of a lot of different prototypes in the end, where they're going to come up with a pretty reliable and safe vehicle.
This almost has a DeLorean look to the body style.
Yeah. So, but it's fascinating to see.
Now, this is what caught my eye, was this shot from above.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sitting here, and so the one car we looked at the other day, it had all the small propellers. I don't know how many it had. What did it have? About 8?
Probably 24, maybe 16 to 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is a completely different principle here.
Yeah. and the other thing that's happening is the jetpacks are starting to become the reality too. You know.
Now, do you think that will ever actually become a reality?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, maybe it might be a long way off, but it's going to happen.
I mean, the thought of strapping that thing on and leaving planet Earth, boy. I'm not saying I wouldn't take the opportunity if it was given to me.
Yeah.
But I would need some convincing. I would need to see somebody flying around and returning safely.
Yeah.
A few times.
It's coming. I tell you, give this a few years, it's going to be dazzling what's going to happen. And you know, you're really not seeing the car makers except for Aston Martin with that fantastic looking thing we showed a few days ago. It's within, I think by the early 20s we're going to see some extraordinary things come together. And I think we're going to start seeing the real automated driving, and that's going to be a huge business in the next decade. The next decade, this is the terrestrial decade, and the next decade is going to be the celestial. It's going to be it's going to be awe-inspiring.
Well, who's going to be the first to market? I mean, there's several different driving.
It might be Aston Martin. You never know. They look like they've got a pretty good
I mean,
lead.
with the automated, with the
I think
driverless cars.
Google. I think Google has it pretty much sewn up.
And how far away?
And you got BMW and Tesla. You got to all. They're
yeah. But how far away do you think we are from that being a reality?
21. They're talking about it being in the UK by 2021.
So by 2021,
yeah.
3 years out, you buy a car, and instead of you driving the car home, the car drives you home. Interesting, And do you believe that's safer?
Oh, it will be. It will be in time. I mean, look, they've got things today. These automatic braking and stuff. Subaru is supposed to be one of the leaders that can react quicker than a human. So
I haven't driven one of those cars that has the I don't have a car with the park assist, and I don't have anything with the automated braking. So my experience is only seeing the commercials on TV. But that's pretty fascinating, and that's got to save lives. Yeah,
we're looking at the Nasdaq, Wayne. I think we're hitting new all-time highs on the Nasdaq, close to right now. We're new closing highs right here, and we're getting pretty close to making a new high in the S&P today. And the Dow's got a pretty good structure to it too. I think the Dow's going to accelerate higher here.
Our highest weekly zone for the S&P this week is 2840/41.
Yeah.
These are still last week's zones on the chart here, but I'll get them updated by tomorrow.
Incidentally, the grains, which, as you know, we've been pretty bullish on the last few days. Wheat is taken off. It's up 32. That's one of the biggest gains in wheat in a long, long time, and possibly could go limit up before the day's out. The beans are actually the soy meal just shot up a few minutes ago. I think all of these grains are going to go higher. By the time the president starts bailing out the farmers.
I saw that headline. Okay, so now why are the farmers getting a special?
Well, I think because the price of grains has gone down so much, it's really hurting them. But I think it's going to add staying power to whatever he has to do, and I think there's going to be look. It's sort of actually kind of working out pretty well for the Chinese right now, because even though there's a tariff on the beans, they're probably getting the Chinese rather are getting cheaper beans today than ever before. So that probably encourages them to buy more beans rather than less.
Can you see this chart, this daily chart I have up? That's soybeans.
Yeah. So it's not a particularly riveting chart just yet, but if it goes vertically higher, it's got to get through this $9 area, then it could really move. But you sort of think maybe there's one more stab down test. There's the risk of that, just as there is with the gold. Actually, the gold stocks are doing better today again. Not usually, but they're up. They had a nice finish yesterday. They're still looking a little bit vulnerable. I still think there's a possibility the gold could react badly between now and Friday in a retest, but we're gradually pushing higher. If we get above 1235 or so, I think it sets the possibility of going up to 1250, which is, to me, is a very big deal if that happens. The palladium is acting very well. Remember, the palladium is $70, $65 higher right now than what it was a week ago at the lows. And the platinum is $40 higher than where it was a week ago. So, it's certainly getting a bounce, but it's not sealed. The deal's not sealed yet by any means, but it's looking better. And I think if we do retest, it'll create potentially a better bottom from which to rally, possibly going into the end of the month. The oil back up again. We put it buy down at the low end this morning around 68.5, and it's up about a point. All of them are up about the same amount, pretty much. What else was I going to say? The pharmaceutical stocks are a bit subdued right now, but I'd be inclined to be, the ones we highlighted here a while back, Celgene and Guild are going very, very well indeed. And Intercept is picking up again. I think they're ready to go back up. They just had a bit of a knockdown the last couple of days. And every time these stocks get knocked down, they seem to get back up again.
There's a pharmaceutical stock I wanted you to take a look at. Let me, I alerted the guys who were on the beta test to it the other night. It wasn't any kind of a recommendation. I just was encouraging them to go take a look at this. It is, let me find it here. Well, I know it's here. Okay, there's two actually. The first one, GWPH.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal, that one.
They've got some kind of clinical trials going on, and they're in the third stage. GW Pharmaceuticals.
They just got approval. They got approval from the FDA for something recently, and that really gave the stock a lot of uplift.
Now, I believe this is the company that has. I know it's a cannabis pharmaceutical company. Now, they have tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. That is the active ingredient in cannabis that gives people the euphoria, the feel good, the buzz, whatever. They have synthesized THC in the laboratory. And my guess is that it was big pharma. They stood to lose a lot. I'm sure you've seen all these clinical studies and trials, all the different things that cannabis is being used to treat, from pain to epilepsy to all sorts of things. And so big pharma's kind of standing on the outside looking in. But now that they've synthesized THC in the laboratory, people who are directed by the doctor to use this for whatever their particular ailment is, you won't have to go to the dispensary to get it. You'll get it at the pharmacy, and it won't be something that you smoke or something that you eat. it'll be a pill, because we're a country of pill takers, and the doctors, they write the prescriptions, and we take the pills. I remember as a kid growing up, even I had 2 sets of grandparents, like most folks. In one house, they were on a medicine for everything: a medicine to wake up, a medicine to go to sleep, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, and lots of medicine. My other grandparents, you're lucky if you could find an aspirin in their house. Just 2 completely different ways of living and approaching health. But with this new development for the pharmaceutical industry, so now this is how they get their hands into it. Have you followed this at all? And what are your thoughts on the whole cannabis as medication? I thought it was a bunch of hooey until I started looking at all the studies. Because I mean, I was a kid. I grew up in the 70s. There's like all the most of the people in this audience smoke pot at some point. In
the merits of it, but I think I think you go for conventional, and if that doesn't work, then you can try this. But something that works well for some epilepsy and things like that, I believe. So I'm kind of open-minded about it, but I'm not. I mean, look this.
Look right here. Synthetic marijuana could help dementia patients. Cannabis-like drug may ease agitation in Alzheimer's patients. Wow, I had not seen this. More than 200 people hospitalized as city grapples with life-threatening batch of synthetic marijuana. I have heard about that synthetic marijuana. I forget what they call it, but you can buy it like in a convenience store. And I have someone that I know, a young girl, she supposedly got hooked on this stuff. I don't know. I mean, look at how they package it. Scooby Snacks, Blueberry Bliss. Now that's aimed at kids. I don't care what anybody says, and that's wrong. It's 4 people have died, and more than 200 have been hospitalized with symptoms that DC officials believe may be related to a potentially fatal batch of synthetic drugs. Now, this synthetic cannabis is not what I was just referring to. Oh, yeah, Spice. That's what they call it. K2, Spice, Bizarro, Scooby Snacks, Trainwrecks. What someone gets when they purchase a bag of Scooby Snacks is potpourri. But it's not regular potpourri. It's been sprayed with a chemical compound meant to mimic the effects of marijuana without using illegal cannabinoids. And what's most dangerous about the synthetic marijuana is the uncertainty of what's in each package. It's almost impossible to say. There's no standardization or uniformity to any of these compounds. That means a person's reaction to the chemicals can vary widely, often result in erratic, violent, and psychotic behavior. My niece, who I was just referring to, she tried to take her life after being on this stuff. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, no, I think to be avoided. Look, like I say, it's only kind of a last resort, this stuff, if something else is not working. So
back to this stock, GWPH. Just looking at this chart, anything in particular stand out to you?
Well, kind of sort of bits. I forget what. I think the approval. I'm trying to figure out where that approval happened. Might have been I think it was when the thing. It was only recently it happened, so it might have been when it jumped up from 140 to 150. But it's.
Let me see what the most recent news for them is. Seeking Alpha just did a write-up on it. This is from June 25th. Stock gets price target hike following FDA approval. There we go. There's a new FDA-approved cannabis-based medicine on the scene. GWPH. U.S. regulators green-lighted it for the treatment of 2 rare and severe forms of epilepsy. Epidiolex, that's the drug, is the first prescription pharmaceutical formulation of highly purified plant-derived cannabinol cannabidol, CBD, a cannabinoid lacking the high associated with marijuana, and the first in a new category of anti-epileptic drugs. When a pharmaceutical company, they do their research and development, they come out with a drug, they go through the trials, they get their FDA approval. Now, doesn't that expire? Isn't there a, what is it, 10 years, 20 years before other companies can start making generic versions of the drug?
I think it's about 18 years or something like that.
18? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then the other one that was on my radar is certainly more affordable. Let's see if it'll come up on this platform. CBWTH. CBWTH. I got that TF. That's the problem. CBW. This is Oxley Cannabis Group Incorporated. Now that's on a weekly chart. Let me put it on a daily chart. So this thing has traded as high as 260, 270. How long has it been around? Okay, it's like May of last year, or April of 2017, it came out of the gate. It's traded as high as 270, and now it's back. It's back at 65 cents. This company, CBWTF. Let's see if they got any news out of late. Yeah, they just had news 2 days ago. We got, it may be time to pay attention to this stock with a weather eye out for the imminent bounce potential. The round trip is often a key technical marker. The stock launched higher late last year, springing from 67 cents to $2.25 a share. Now it has spilled stop loss orders back under the origin of that explosive move. The picture is augmented by recent catalysts, including the company's announcement that its wholly owned subsidiary has received its sales license from Health Canada, pursuant to the Access to Cannabis for Medical Purposes regulations. In Canada, it's completely legal now. This is one I really think, I read about it the other night, did a little bit of research. AUXLY, and the symbol CBWTF. In fact, I even suggested in the beta test, although it's not an actual part of the beta test itself, but said to consider buying it at 80 cents on a stop, with a stop loss at 65 cents, an initial target of $1.50. So $1.50 would put us.
I don't like the structure of that stock too much.
Area,
you know, unless something dramatic happens, it's got a very good structure.
What is it you don't like about it?
Just the way that it's, the whole history, the way it's been slammed down every time it rallied, you know. And that spike as well back in it, you know.
This here. That was this year. All right, well, I'm going to keep it on my radar and keep an eye on it, because I think I want to do some more research. Maybe I'll invite the CEO to come on the show and do an interview. They usually enjoy that, talking about their baby. Okay. All right, what else do we want to look at?
That's pretty much it. I think, you know, you just keep an eye on the grains. They, you know, with the wheat being up so much, is a pretty. We're only up at $1 on the bean, or whatever, on a cent. We're up one point on the beans, and the meal is up more actually, but it looks like the grains could be ready for a pop. And obviously, if there's any hint of China, you know, coming to the table or offering some kind of, you know, easing, these grains could go up dramatically. So, you know, if we start hitting new highs today, I'd probably want to go home long the grains here.
You think they have upside potential still?
I do. Well, I mean, look, we've been buying the dips here. I think we put a buy in this morning at 860, and it's been acting. It's just run into a bit of trouble, but it looks like it's probably, you know, maybe before the close, you're going to see it trade up a bit here. So, and you know, it could gap higher tonight the way it's looking. You know, so.
Now, last night's email suggested buying 874. So. What we put in as a high today, 877. So that's 3 points. For those that don't know, soybeans pay exactly the same as the S&P 500, $12.50 a tick, 4 ticks to a point, $50 per point. Okay, John. Well, thanks very much.
Okay, listen, thanks very much for the invite.
All right.
The one thing that's starting to stand out a bit today is that gold stocks are just, you know, after getting knocked down early, are probing higher right now. Some of them making new highs on the day, which is quite a positive thing.
Excellent.
So, okie doke.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right. And here's gold right now, turning back up. Let me get John's mic for him. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Last night's alert, 1234. Swing high was 2430. By 3 ticks. Guys, I'm going to put you on hold for just 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, getting along 1234. In fact, I haven't given you a chance to take a screenshot yet. Let me do that. Hold on there. There we go. And oh, not so easy. How did that happen? Wow. The display year. I'll always remember this year as the year. Could not get my display. Never had problems with displays before. Good video cards, good hardware. I think it's operator error, quite frankly. Anyway, here's the trade alerts from last night. If you're on the go-to software, little thing up top looks like a camera. It is. Click it, and it'll save a screenshot. Okay. Now. Oh, and I asked this yesterday, and I didn't hear back. Is anyone here have working knowledge of the Windows 10 built-in speech recognition. Anyone actually using it on a regular basis? Because I mentioned this yesterday. I was in a mentoring session with a very nice gentleman. His entire career had nothing to do with computers, and so he never bothered to learn. He had a good job, a good career. He did well. Now he's reached a point in his life where, as many, he wants to learn how to trade, but it's double duty for him because he also has to learn how to use a computer so that he can learn how to trade. So he's learning two things at once. And he said one of the difficulties for him in the live training room was that, because I was encouraging him to ask lots of questions, he said, you know, to type 25 letters takes me about 25 minutes because I just hunt and peck. I'm not a touch typist. I still glance down at the keyboard. I can type pretty fast, but I'm not going to win any awards for it, that's for sure. So when I found out that the speech recognition built into Windows 10 would type, now I'm familiar with the software, Dragon, Naturally Speaking, and there's been a number of, you've been able to type with your voice in Google Docs for quite some time. I think also in Word. But the article from Microsoft that I read about the speech recognition said that you could use it to type text into any application. I was not able to get it to work yesterday with DT Pro. I only spent a few minutes with it, but if someone here has that experience, by all means, share it with me. I'd love to know. Karen, I'm just now getting the chat box open. Karen, I see your comment that Facebook reports today after the close and Amazon tomorrow. So that's something to keep in mind, guys. Now, on a stock chart, let me bring it back up a minute, the stock chart. Where have I got this on? Daily, 30 minutes. What was that other one we had up there? GW. Gaps are pretty common in the stock market. Of course, I would pick a chart that doesn't have a lot in it, but we were just looking at one a minute ago. In equities, gaps are relatively common. In futures, about the only time we see gaps are Sunday night Globex Open and during earnings season. So Karen's pointing out Facebook and also Amazon, the importance of them, of knowing that they will report after the bell tomorrow. When futures reopen, that's when you very well, when one of these big companies reports earnings, whether it's a hit or a miss, it's kind of like trading a Fed announcement. It's more gambling than anything else. So I like to just, all I'm doing is letting you know that you could see a gap today, tomorrow, and in futures you don't get a lot of gaps. So, and one thing in futures, unlike equities, is in futures, boy, it seems like the gap almost always closes. Sometimes in equities they do not. Let's see, what did Don share with us here? Doesn't do any good to raise minimum wage. If people make more, then everyone will have to pay more for goods and services. You're right back. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, Don, as inflation creeps in. I mean, I certainly want to see everyone earn a living wage, a good wage, you know, as much as they're capable of earning. But along with that, and when we raise the minimum wage, in fact, when we double it, or it's difficult for small businesses to, they got to come up with that money somewhere. Now, if it's an extremely profitable company, of course, then it's it's not a problem. But if you're a small business that's already operating on thin margins, it could mean somebody's going to lose their job, and in some cases a business might even go under. Doesn't change the fact that everyone deserves a living wage and health care. I mean, here in Arizona, health care is more expensive than most mortgage payments. It's just completely out of control. Very discouraging. Let's see what else we got here in the chat box. Yeah, Brad, it did look like a Blade Runner vehicle. It did. Gary, you're going to send me a YouTube... Gary, I see that you're going to send me a YouTube video. I must have missed the first part of your comment. Scrolling. Yeah, Gary, I see that you said you're going to send me a YouTube video explaining it, but I'm not sure. Oh, hey, Randy, you're the nice gentleman I was just speaking about. Yeah, I know. It's I don't understand, because they said, Microsoft said, that it'll work in any application. Oh, Gary's going to send me a video about, well, about recording your Windows 10. Okay, what we're talking about now, Gary, make sure we're on the same page, is the voice recognition. You know, I know you guys can't see the toolbar down here, but if I do this and do this, is that how it works?
Opening check network status.
Okay. That wasn't what I wanted it to do. Let me... Hang on, we'll spend just a minute on this. There's a way to have it load each time. So Randy, I'm glad you're here, and hopefully someone in the audience may have some information for us. I want to figure out the proper way of opening it. Windows speech recognition. Okay. Yeah. Now the built-in Windows voice recorder, that's awesome for journaling your trades each day, because we always encourage you, especially those just getting started, journal every trade. You know, the time, the emotions, this everything. You know, what you had for breakfast. But it's difficult when you got to take your eye off the screen for 10 minutes to scribble in a journal or a notebook. By using the built-in voice recorder in Windows 10, you don't ever have to take your eyes off the screen. You just open your mouth, and everything that crosses your mind, let it pass your lips, so that at the end of the day, when you're not in the heat of the battle, you can sit back. You can listen to yourself, which is an interesting experience. Listen to yourself and look at the charts. This is at the end of the day when there's no trade on and there's no, you've had a shower and dinner and maybe a nap, I don't know, but you're relaxed. You will see that chart so differently than you saw it earlier in the day. And your own words will come back to haunt you and help you. It is probably one of the best things that a new trader can do. Record it all, and you don't have to have all that dead space. You can pause it, and I think, I'm not positive, I think there's voice activation on the voice recorder. Gary might be able to tell me that. Okay, so all right, Randy, let's get back to this. Okay, I've got it open, but it opened in the other browser. I wonder if I can move it. I can. So this is what the little device looks like. Okay. It's off. It's on. Listen to everything I say. Let's turn it off for a minute. Listen only for start listening. Do not listen to anything. Oh, there's a reference card that you can, with all the different commands that are readily understood. Start speech tutorial, options, play audible feedback, run at startup, enable dictation, scratch pad, configuration, set up my microphone, dictation topic. Okay. Open Firefox. Stop listening. Now, I don't know. That's pretty cool. Upside down flying car. Upside down flying car. Search. Okay. Didn't get it perfect. I can't tell it to open DT Pro because that's already open. What other application do I have? What else do I use? Gary says, how did you get that on the screen? You mean this little guy here? Yeah, I just went down where you type in to search went down on your taskbar next to the Windows Start button. I just typed in I think speech or voice REC. That's about as far as I got it. It auto-populated speech recognition. And you can shrink it to the toolbar. Speech recognition is still running. It will continue to run so that you can... Okay. I was attempting to put it on the taskbar. Where did it put itself? Now I can't find it, Gary. That's odd. Well, Gary, I guess I'll go back over here and I'll type in I typed in VOIC as in voice and it popped up Windows Speech Recognition Desktop App. And so there it is. Now, I am I guess if you really got to be alone working with yourself. I want to find some kind of application that I have, something on my computer other than a browser. I want to see if it can interact with it as it claims that it can. And if there's just some issue as to why it doesn't work with DT Pro, I mean, I think this would be a huge bonus for everyone who, you know, maybe you do type okay, but I'm just looking for, I guess I don't have a lot of programs other than trading programs. What do I gotta have something in here? But I'm looking for something that all right, I'll try this. Open GoToMeeting. Okay. Yeah, I know you can't really see that very well. Stop. See, that's... Now that little tiny thing is asking... Test 1, 2, 3. Test. Test. T-E-S-T. Okay. All right, we'll put this to rest for now. I was really disappointed when that thing didn't work because I know, Randy, that it was you were really excited because it was going to be a big Roy says that Evernote has a voice recorder. Yeah, well, in the past, what I've done was I've recommended that people use Audacity, which is a free, very high quality program, but it's a full audio editing suite. And I think it looks very complicated. It's actually simple, but, well, no, it's not. It's very sophisticated. But if you just want to use the voice recording function, that part's relatively simple. And then it dawned on me the other day that the built-in voice recorder for Windows 10 voice recorder, because it's built in, probably. Now, if you use Evernote a lot, I mean, that's, you know, whatever works for you. My only thing here is to encourage everyone to journal your trades, journal your trades, journal your trades. It will shave a lot of time off the learning curve because you will learn from yourself. Because you think one way when you're actually trading, and then when you back away and aren't actively involved, but are an observer, right? You're observing yourself, you're listening to yourself, and you're looking at the chart, everything that happened, and you may have been excited that morning, or you may have been upset. Maybe your stomach was tied in a knot, or your head hurt, I don't know. But you'll listen to yourself, and boy, it just fixes so many things so quick. So I encourage you to use it if you haven't. It's recording right now, and I hit pause, and then to go back to recording, I just unpause it and pause. This add a marker, I'm not sure what that does, but oh, I see. Oh, it highlights. Oh, okay. So maybe you can place a marker at the point where you actually entered the trade. Ah, okay. Learn something new every day. All right. Yeah, right, Jack. That's what I had said earlier. Dragon Naturally Speaking. I have that software here somewhere, and I used it for about 30 minutes a few years back when I purchased it, and it just didn't work for me. And I shouldn't say it didn't work. It felt cumbersome, and I just I never got comfortable with it. Again, I only used it for half an hour. Now, our friend Mike Reed at tradestalker.com, he uses Dragon, and it works great for him. So what we wanted to happen is we wanted it to type into the text box, and according to when I did a Google search on the voice recognition software built into Windows 10, it said it would interact with any app. And it said even if you have like a form to fill out, you know, like it's got 10 questions, you could say number 1, and your cursor would jump to the form field in number 1. You say what you got to say. Number 2, and it jumps down to the second text box. So I don't know if I misread it, if they misled us, if I need to do something additionally to tweak it to get it to work. But if I find anything out, Randy, you'll be the first one I let know. All right? I think it's just a great, great tool to have on hand. And again, Gary, as far as how did I make that pop up on the screen, I just went over there and typed VOIC. VOI. I guess you can just say it, right? No, I haven't turned that on. Yeah, VOIC, and it brings up Windows Speech Recognition Desktop App. And why did it not pop up that time? That's a good question. Push recorder. No, that's not what I want. I want speech recognition. And it may be that it just, and if it can't do what I thought it could do, I got to believe there's somebody out there clever enough to make it work that way. I see advanced speech options. Oh, Gary says if it works if you hit Windows plus the H. I remember reading that. So the Windows key and H. Windows key and H. I got nothing. All right, well, we need to move along. Now, this is the beauty of the hive mind. That's hive, H-I-V-E, hive mind. Yeah. So we got all these smart people gathered in one place. And so now each one will return to our day momentarily. And it's like having, 50, 100, 1,000 research assistants. So tomorrow, the hive mind or the cloud mind will bring back to this show probably a good and workable solution to the issue. Let's see, Gary says, I used it to type in this box and I've used it to type in email. So Gary, you're saying that you used it to type into the question box in the GoToWebinar software? So Randy, Gary has apparently figured this out. Let me get clarification. Is that right, Gary? He just typed into the chat box. I used it to type in this box, and I've also used it. Okay, well, that's incredible. I just wonder how you got it to do that. Did you have to change any kind of settings? Okay, here, let me write that down, and I'll give you a call. Randy, I'm going to call Gary and talk with him later this afternoon, and he's going to school me on this. Now, he just said that he was able to type right into the question box here, and this is the exact same thing you have in the live training room. So that is exciting news. I'm writing your number down, Gary. I think I've already got it, but I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you very much for that offer, Gary, and I will take you up on it. That's excellent. Oh, you're very welcome, Randy. I mean, wow, what now? How much time will that shave off your learning curve, perhaps, to be able to? I mean, I still want to encourage you to use some of those free typing courses, maybe that they have online. So I think you'd feel better if you could sit down at a keyboard and just, if you could do 30 words a minute with no errors, that's pretty good. I think a really fast typist, I don't know, does 60 or 70, something like that. But for you to not have to, worry yourself with keying in every question, to be able to just say what's on your mind and have it appear in the box. Maybe you have to correct an error, or just send it. We understand misspellings. All right, so good stuff. Jack says, by the way, since you replaced your computer, the screen looks overlap on Go 2 when using a mobile device. Jack, say that again. Since you replaced your computer, the screen looks I don't know. Something about a mobile device. Okay, I'll let you clarify that for me. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah, we've had all kinds of display issues with YouTube. This is the first time I'm hearing about an issue with the mobile device. I know that the video driver settings, something's off, something's not as it should be, and I do want to get that fixed. I've been trying to. I spend most of my days trying to fix this silly thing. It's 2 top-of-the-line video cards, a great monitor, and hardware just is not. I'm confident that hardware is not the problem. It's somewhere. I think it's a combination of software and user error. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. So Gary says he doesn't have to type it. He just speaks into it and then hits the send button. So you do hit the send button. Okay, I'm getting, my phone's blowing up over here over something, so let me get through the rest of this, and if I missed any questions, feel free to type them into, or copy and paste them back into the chat box, and let's run through the rest of this stuff real quick. On the S&P last night, the Concierge Trade Alerts said to consider buying 28.23. This initial pop took us up 3 points. These are still last week's zones, so partners, you know where the zones are. And I already said our highest is 2840/41. Tomorrow's Thursday, and so we will put the zones out for the entire community. And as you can see, these are last week's zones, right? Was that beneficial? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. So every week, I mean, yes, it's better, of course, if you have the current zones and last week's zones. But if for whatever reason you don't have the current zones because you're not a partner yet, at least having last week's zones kind of gives you a pretty good idea. So on Thursdays, I usually make those public to the entire community. Partners get them Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern, in their inbox. Time to get their charts all set up before Wall Street wakes up. Oh, Randy, did you figure out, I think it was, that might have been someone else I was talking to. Someone had asked me about how to use the app to put the weekly trading zones on the chart. Was that you, Randy? And if so, did you get it figured out? It may have been somebody else. I'm still blowing. Okay. All right, let's get through this. So we had a 3-point move, 28.23 up to 28.26. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. Price gets back below the trigger. Off it goes again. And the swing high so far is 28.30. So the 6 becomes a 7. Now, we never get out at the swing high or the swing low because we teach everyone to trail a stop. If you trail a stop the way that we teach you, you will always leave a little something on the table. You won't get out. So when I say the market made 7 points available, the market made 3 points available. Yeah, that's what the market made available. That's not the same thing as that's what you took out of the trade. Okay, it's important to understand that because otherwise you'll get frustrated. Now, if you're trading to a hard target, let's say, oh, the market's declining, right? Okay, like this is a good example right here. Market's declining and the swing low was 28.14, right on the nose. So that's kind of an example there of the zones being effective a week later. All right, now let's say that you had an order in to sell 28.14. Price has to trade through it in order for you to get filled, to guarantee that you got filled. See, price could come down to 28.14 and it could churn and it could churn and it could churn and then take off. And you're like, wait a minute, you know? That's one of the reasons that we like using the buy and sell on a stop method of placing an order, because price has to trade through you. Now, for a target, let's say your target was 28.14. Let's say you're in a short trade here. 28.14 was your target. Okay. If you have a hard target in at 28.14, you'll get 28.14. All right. If you do not have a hard target in, price comes down. Now this was a red candle at one point, this 30-minute candle. It could come down to 28.14 and you're like, woohoo, I hit my target. And it sits there and it sits there and then it heads back the other way. And you're going, no. Yeah, that happens. So just be aware that that's how markets work. And then decide how you're going to build that into your trading plan. Okay? How are you going to deal with that specific issue? Price has to trade through to guarantee a fill. Now, when price comes down at 28.14 and you're looking at the DOM and transactions are going through, there's people getting filled at 28.14. Well, it depends on where you are in the line. Okay? If you're at the end of the line, you might get filled, you might not. If price goes one tick lower to 28.13.75 and your target is 28.14, you got filled. It traded through you. Okay? So that one tick can be very meaningful. So just something to keep in mind. Yeah, the S&P looks like it wants to go. So we're still, we're at 7.5 now. Market made 3 points available. Market made 7.5 points available. And our highest zone, which I already told you for the S&P, is 2840/41. Let's see. Don says, are we supposed to trade these concierge trades on a 30-minute TF? Oh, time frame? Well, Donald, are you, tell me where you're at on the trade alerts. Are you on a trial? Is that what's going on? Okay, so if you're on a trial, have you watched the training videos? And I know that we haven't done a mentoring session. So let me make a note to myself to email you. Email Don. There's 2 videos, Don, and Michael might have sent them to you. We have 3 different time frames that we work with on the Concierge Trade Alerts. If our big picture chart does not give us a suitable entry, in other words, we don't want to risk, and because this is discretionary trading, unlike the live training room where the rules are hard and fast, there's no deviation. With discretionary trading, it's the complete opposite, okay? However, there are no hard and fast rules, but there are guidelines, just some basic guidelines. And one of those is that I don't want to risk more than $300 per contract per trade to determine whether or not I'm on the right side of the trade or the profitable side of the trade. I like that better than right or wrong, okay? If on the 30-minute chart we cannot find the proper place to put our stop loss, then we drop down to a intermediate time frame, and then we ultimately go down to our smallest time frame. We have to find a place where we can position our stop loss, and sometimes we have to walk away because it's just not there. And so we wait for the next setup. 8 markets every day, 2 trade ideas per market. So that's 16 trade ideas when the email hits the inbox. And because important prices in important areas are almost always tested. Okay. So this one trade idea just became 2 triggers. It could, on the S&P, and on S&P in particular, a month ago, you had one day where there were 8 triggers off the same price. So those 8 markets, those 16 trade ideas that you get in your email, those can some days turn into 20, 25, 30, 40 actual triggers in the market. And so when a trade comes along that does not tick all of your boxes, whatever all of your boxes are, then there's no pressure to take that trade. And there's certainly no expectation that anyone is going to take all of the Concierge Trade Alerts on any given day. Okay. Number one, it's just not possible. And number two, don't lose sight of, once you reach your goal for the day, take your money, put the mouse away. Okay. Just because we go from rules-based to discretionary, we don't forget about that. Now, our goals may change, right? Okay, because we are risking a maximum of $300 per contract per trade. Now, if a Concierge Trade Alert, well, not a trade alert, but on the beta test, right? If we only have, the beta test is more like the tweets that I send out. If there's only a 3-point target from entry to the target on the S&P, it's 3 points, okay? We're not going to risk $300 chasing a $150 target. If the trade setup, as I put it in to the Telegram channel, if it shows there's $150 potential in that particular trade, then that's the maximum that you're going to risk. If it's possible to risk less, you will. But those are the things that I teach you in the one-on-one mentoring sessions. So you should sign up for one of those while you're still on the trial and still have access. And I will email those 2 videos from you. I don't know if you ever answered me on that Have you watched those videos, Donald, already? Did Michael already send them to you? You have not. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's real important. It's kind of hard to. It's kind of, in fact, it's quite difficult, really, to trade the alerts if you've not had the training. So, okay, you said you will. Do you already have the videos? You said I will today. I'm just trying to figure out if I need to email them to you or not. Or do you already have them? You'll have to look. Okay. I'll just send them to you. If you find them, just go ahead and start watching them. And then, you know, get a 45-minute free mentoring session so that I can answer any questions that you have. All right. And when we do the mentoring session, it's not in a GoToWebinar setting. It's in a GoToMeeting setting. And we don't type. You'll have an open mic. If you don't have a headset, you can use your telephone to dial in. And we basically have a conversation with each other as we're looking at the charts. You ask questions. I do my best to answer them for you. You get so many emails from us, they get lost. Really? I wonder why. Because we don't send very many out. We send out, you get an email every day reminding you that the training room's going to open and that the radio show's going to start, and that should be about it. What kind of an email do you get, Don, other than about the training room and about the radio show? Maybe there's something going out I don't know about. Do you get any emails regarding things other than that? Because if you're getting 10, we don't send 10, so I need to know what's happening, where those are coming from. All right, we got to get through this. So go ahead and just type in your response at your leisure. All right, on the Dow, last night's email said, to consider selling 25,105. $25,105. Wasn't much there. Let's see. Okay, 25,105. All right, the swing low was 88. The swing low here was 90. So what are we talking? We're talking about the potential for 15 Dow points, okay? Which means this trade most likely will become a stop out for you unless you are, for some reason, still in the trade. The buy side of that, if the opportunity presents, consider buying 25,235. 25,235. What's the swing high? 25,234. Swing high 25,234. Okay. Now, it's a good time to bring that up, this up. We often see this happen. Price will run right up to the number and sometimes touch it and then turn and run in the opposite direction. Okay. Now, that does point out the fact that yes, indeed, it was an important price, an important area. Some traders will wait for a close above the trigger and or other methods that they've developed. Not everyone just simply buys 25235 on a stop. I send them out and recap them as if you did buy the number on a stop. Okay, and that's how I show the results, because I don't know, you know, everybody may have some different, and there's a number of methods, and if anyone wants to delve into that, then just sign up for a mentoring session and we'll do it. So the highest we got here was 34, but as you can see, if it had gone just one more tick, if you're buying 235 on a stop, you get triggered in, okay? And then it turns and runs the other way. So if that happens to you a number of times, you'll probably develop your own method of, you know, when you're going to be comfortable entering. And because we know that important prices in important areas are almost always tested, like back over here yesterday, right? We triggered, ran up 23 points, okay? We then got back below the trigger and ran up 98 points. You don't always get a second opportunity, but when you do, remember, leg, retrace, leg. Sometimes that second opportunity can be the best opportunity, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth. Often, the opportunities with the least amount of risk provide the greatest opportunity for profit. Okay, so no trigger to the long side, and we had two, you know, we dropped 15 points twice, and I don't think you're going to take your stop to break even that quick. You might, I don't know. And you may have another method. And there's also the indicators. When you run the indicators, often the positioning of the indicators can help you. In fact, there were some comments on one of the alerts last night on the beta test, I'm sorry, where I went into some detail. We took that as a stop out, but I'm going to put a chart up if I can today that will show you, and most of you have already gone and looked at it for yourself. It's not a trade that you would have most likely taken. But for the record, we called it a stop out. All right, so let's move on to the Russell. Okay. These flat markets are tough. But after a day like this, you know, a day of consolidation, it's kind of to be expected. So on the Russell, consider buying 1687. See, that's an issue there on these narrow range days. Could have easily 1687. Where are you? There you go. All right, the swing high was 1687.3. 3 ticks, and then it reversed on you. Okay. Now now it's starting to click. Oh, okay. Maybe I do need. Although there will if you choose a method of confirmation before entry, then there will be those trades that just sail through there. They don't come back to test. It's like a rocket, and you've got to be okay with that. Yep, that one triggered and ran up 100 points. And I missed it because whatever it is that you're using for confirmation. And you just have to be okay with that. I know that I'm not going to get all the trades. I'm not going to get all the money in the world. I'm not going to do a lot of things. But I know what I can do, and I know how to do it best. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make myself behave. Gary, you typed in Y. Is that an accident? Why question mark? The beta for the Dow. What about it? Why would you not take that trade? I'm reviewing the Concierge Trade Alerts right now, Gary. This isn't, I'm not reviewing the beta test. So I didn't, in comments that I made last night to those who are on the beta test in Telegram, I pointed out one of the trades that triggered. It was a short trade. I forget which market. It didn't go very far. And when you lay the indicators on top of it, it would have, it's probably just a trade you wouldn't have taken. So, I don't know. Are you asking me about, why don't you type out, Gary, what it is, what trade exactly that you're referring to, and I'll be happy to take a look at it for you. Okay? Just copy and paste and whatever the trade was. Or better yet, when I call you later, we can do a quick go-to meeting and I'll show it to you. Okay, so back to the Russell. 1687 and the swing high 87.3. On the reverse, if the opportunity presents, consider selling 1675. Gotta love that. And the swing low was 1674.80. So it overshot by 2 ticks. So we overshot up here by 3. We overshot down here by 2. And all the price action of the day is contained inside of that. Crude oil. Last night's trade alert said, so just so people don't get confused, the Concierge Trade Alerts and the current beta test that we're running. Now, the Concierge Trade Alerts began as a beta test that ran, a public beta test that ran for 3 years, and every single trade is still out there on Twitter, and most of them are on, or a lot of them are on Seeking Alpha, and a lot of them are on Stock Twits, but they're all on Twitter. The whole 3 years, they're all there, and that beta test became the Concierge Trade Alerts. We have a new beta test going on right now, and that's not going to be, I've already said, there's not going to be another 3-year beta test. This is going to be closer to 3 weeks, and we're halfway through week 2. Okay, crude oil. So when you hear me talk beta and you hear me talk trade alert, I mean, yeah, I know it's, if you're not actively involved, it can be confusing. So it's two separate things. All right, crude, consider buying 69.75. 69.75. Swing high was 69.70. Consider selling 60. You had no trigger at all on crude. Not on the Concierge Trade Alerts. No trigger yet. Okay. And on gold, yet another exact same thing. Now, the swing high was 24.3. Okay, my gold chart wasn't updating, but I'm not going to blame it on that. It's just I published 34 and it went to 34.3. So really, the market's really making a case today for all traders to consider that confirmation, whether you're on the Concierge, whether you're on the beta, no matter what you're on, It's discretionary trading, and so you'll determine what works best for you, and whatever it is you choose, okay, it's not going to work every time. Yeah, that question, I don't know if it works. Well, you know, you can't get the right answer by asking the wrong question. So I will help you in the mentoring sessions, and I'm speaking in general to everyone. Learn to formulate the proper question in the context of trading, because trading is different from any other business, any other industry. I mean, you may have been a rock star in your career, or in the current job that you have, the current career that you're in, and you're just killing it, whatever you do. That does not transfer to trading. It does not translate into trading. It's different and it's unique. Some people who are miserable failures in whatever career they happen to be in, killing it as traders. Okay, it's different. And I know, because I left a very successful business to begin trading futures. I've been trading equities for years, and I was under the assumption that, well, because I was such a clever fellow in the other industry, every job I ever had, I was pretty clever. Got a rude awakening when it was just me and the markets. You have to learn to think differently. You learn to think in probabilities. You learn to separate yourself from your emotions. You begin to understand that there is no right or wrong. There is profitable and unprofitable. And you learn that just the second you think you got it all figured out, you don't. And as soon as you find an indicator that's going to allow you to be profitable on all your trades and not get stopped out anymore, you're dreaming. So we go through all these kind of rude awakenings on this journey. At some point, you know, many people, they say that the published and industry accepted figure is that 9 out of 10 people who attempt to become traders will not succeed. Okay, 9 out of 10. Our numbers are considerably different. Why? Because we have not only group instruction every single day in live markets, but we have the one-on-one mentoring sessions. So imagine trying to learn how to fly a plane without a teacher, an instructor. That'd be a bumpy ride. Come back and pick me up after you learn. Imagine us being a surgeon and you have to teach yourself. What? Go out on the internet and try to find somebody to teach you how to trade. Good luck. Oh, you'll find all kinds of trading rooms and services and indicators and tip sheets and, well, you name it. So let me say it again. Search the internet and try to find someone who will actually teach you how to trade. Now, it's not like teaching you how to knit or crochet. Knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2. Okay? No, not like that at all. If you find somebody who will teach you how to trade, I mean actually teach you, you should invite them to come on the show. Because people don't do that. People don't have the time for that. Why would someone who's capable of making money in the markets sit around talking to people in a meeting room about trading? I mean, what's the motivation? Huh? Now, there are some out there that will tell you that they teach just to give back, just to be a regular guy, a good Joe, and all that. Okay. Maybe you believed it, maybe you didn't. Michael and I, we decided that once we cracked the code, so to speak, that we would indeed give back, and we did. For 4 years. We trained on this radio show without compensation. And then we decided that, okay, we paid our debt to society. If we're going to continue this, expand on this, then it has to become a business. And so, there you go. When you open a business, you expect to earn a profit. That's why you open the business, whatever the business is. It could be a Subway sandwich shop. If you buy a Subway sandwich franchise and open up, nobody comes to buy sandwiches, you're going to have a pretty blank stare on your face. What happened? What went wrong? See? But that won't happen. And so the same thing goes with learning to trade. If you really want to learn, you can teach yourself. I don't know how long it will take and how much money it will cost. Every person's different and unique. And just because you have someone who is willing to teach you how to trade doesn't mean that you're going to learn how to trade. I can teach you how to play baseball. That doesn't mean you're going to become a baseball player. Certainly doesn't mean you're going to pitch for the Yankees, right? Okay, I hope that analogy works. Don, did you think we weren't aware of that? We already did the math, buddy. We already did the math. See, we're honest about why we do what we do. It's the money. I'll say it again. It's the money. Ministry costs money. Lots of people find Jesus, quit their job, give themselves to the ministry, and then they realize, because it's kind of like, well, all this money should just come flowing in, and then, you know, pretty soon I got this whatever going on in this country, or I'm raising up a mega church here in the States. No, doesn't work that way. And the last thing God needs is another broke preacher. Boy, he's got a gaggle of those already. Kings and priests. One of our partners wrote a book on that topic. We need to have him back on the show. There's a number of podcasts we did on the website. So many men who are accomplished in business and in all areas, they come to a realization that there is a God and that they want a relationship and that they want to serve him, which gets God pretty excited. And then the next thing you know, they want to quit their job. Whoa, no. The kingdom needs finances. Not every person is cut out to be a preacher or a missionary. And not everybody's cut out to be the next Google or the next Amazon. So it's important to find out who you are. Are you a king or are you a priest? Both are important to the kingdom. Without finances, the kingdom does not grow. Without good preaching, men will stray. It's a fine line, and a number of people that I personally know have struggled with this issue, and John Garfield, who wrote the book, he really, let me dig out those podcasts. I'm going to put those on the Google Plus, put a link to them. They're all on one page, I think. And if you've not heard those, and if you've not read his book, let me see where it is on Amazon. Hang on. Yeah, on Amazon you can search Releasing Kings. Here, I'll pull it up. actually, you can go to releasingkings.com. And I'm sure you can buy a copy. Yeah, here's the book. This is a great book. John's a great guy. If you've not, Releasing Kings for Ministry in the Marketplace. Now, back to your question, Don. This is a business, and we earn an income from the business. And every wealthy person, truly wealthy, not speaking of my own finances, I'm just talking in generalities, the kind of wealth that passes from generation to generation comes from people who have multiple streams of income. And so we have a business that teaches people how to trade. We also have the ability to trade. And we dabble in real estate and tech and other ventures so that we have multiple income streams. Also, and this might be the most important point, when you teach something, and anyone in the audience who's ever been a teacher, it doesn't matter if you are a primary school teacher, a high school teacher, or a college professor, or a Sunday school teacher, or maybe you're in the military, when you are and you taught those who are under you, when you teach something, every time you teach, you get a new twist on it. You see something you didn't see before. The greatest way to learn more about anything, any subject, any career, the way to learn more is by teaching others what you already know. Because as you walk through that process with them over and over and over, it opens your mind. And my greatest aha moments have always been on a radio show, in a one-on-one mentoring session, a partner's workshop on Thursday nights. As I'm explaining it, I can literally see the words hanging there in the air, and that's when those incredible moments of clarity come. So others benefit, I benefit, and the bills get paid. There you go. But I'm glad you did the math on. Now, here's the worst thing. Here's the worst thing you can do, is to get caught up in that math. Okay. Now that you know the math, every partner has the 24/20 blueprint, which is how you go from 1 to 20 contracts over a period of 24 months. Everyone understands the math, but now you got to get your mind off of that, because just that math alone, here's what will happen. You'll go live with one contract, and you're not doing so well, so you'll increase the number of contracts. In the beginning, you said, okay, I need to make 2 points a day, blah blah. Pretty soon, you've boxed yourself into a corner. You're trading 50 contracts, looking for 2 ticks a day. I just need 2 ticks, man. I just need 2 ticks, man. Yeah. Get consistently profitable in the simulator. It's 10 consecutive days in a row where you reach your goal, 10 trades or less. I want you to complete that leg of the journey. Then you go live with one contract, and you stay with one until you increase your account balance by $2,000. Then you go on the calendar schedule, and it tells you right there on the calendar when you'll add your 3rd and your 4th, then your 5th and your 6th and your 7th. Life happens. People get sick. People go on vacation. And so whenever you fall out of sync, or whenever you hit a rough patch, whatever the case may be, that's going to delay your time frame. You don't make up for that by just adding more contracts. Well, I had to, and I was supposed to, you know, blah blah, so I'm going to add 2 this time. You know, if you deviate from that plan, you'll probably wish that you hadn't. So anyway, whoever's working the plan, keep working it, because it works. All right, we're on gold. What do we got left? What do we got left? NQ. NQ. Okay. All right. Last night, the email said, the NQ. Consider buying 74.56 if the opportunity presents. 74.56. And that live radio trade from the yesterday on the NQ, I showed that earlier, right at the beginning. I think that triggered twice. I think I've got it on another chart. We'll go take a look at it in just a second. 74.46, yeah? I'm sorry, 74.56. That's pretty close. Stop. 74.56. All right. 74.56. Swing high so far. 74.85. So that was 55 to 85. That'd be 30. So we'll make it 29 times $20 per point. Well, we all know that it would be $600 if it was 30 points. So just take 20 off. $580 per contract available. Okay. And on the NQ, there's no trigger on the short side. Okay. All right. I think we've accomplished what we set out to do. Good word for the day is our last day with Jairus. 2 Timothy 1:10. He broke the power of death and illuminated the way to life and immortality. It's no surprise God has a heart for hurting parents. After all, God himself is a father. What parental emotion has he not felt? Perhaps you're separated from your child. So is God. Maybe someone's mistreating your child. They mocked and bullied Jesus pretty good. Is somebody taking advantage of your child? Well, Jesus was set up by false testimony, betrayed by a greedy follower. Are you forced to watch while your child suffers? Any parent who's ever had a child get sick, and I'm not talking the really bad stuff, but even just a fever, a bad cold. As a parent, it really causes some pain as you sit there and watch your child suffer and you are absolutely helpless. There's not a thing you can do. God watched his son die on the cross. Do you ever find yourself wanting to spare your child from all the hurt in the world? God did. But because of his great love for us, he did not spare his own son, but gave him for us all. So with Jesus, God will surely give us all things. It's Romans 8:32. Now, note the part, all things. All things. That's not some, it's not a few, it's not a portion. All is all. There's nothing God can't do in answer to prayer. Nothing he can't do doesn't mean he will do, but there's nothing he can't do. Perhaps you've prayed, but your child or friend or parent who was sick died anyway. But no pain compares to that of losing a child. Maybe you've said, well, Jesus resurrected Jairus' child. Why didn't he save mine? God understands the question. He buried a child. He hates death more than you do. That's why he broke the power of death and illuminated the way to life and immortality. Those are big words. For those who trust Christ, death is nothing more than a doorway to heaven. It's a transition. Your child may not be in your arms today. Your spouse, your loved one, your parent, your friend. They may not be in your arms today, but they're safely in his. After losing his son at birth, David looked forward with hope and said this in 2 Samuel 12:23. I shall go to him, and so will you. And that's our good word for the day. Okay, the S&P picking up some steam here. Got a new high up at 28.34 and a half. From 23 to 34. It's like our 7 became an 11. That's what the market made available. What you're able to take out of that depends upon where your stop loss is. Where is it positioned? Moves such as this can be greatly aided by just putting your indicators on there. I won't take the time to show you today because we're already over time. But take a mentoring session and I'll be happy to go over it with you one-on-one. Just let me know. Oh, that NASDAQ trade, yeah. Thanks for reminding me. Is this it? Yep. This was the live radio trade idea from yesterday. Consider being long 74.28 to 74.38. So there's 74.28 and there's 74.38. Okay. It did it once. It did it twice. It did it 3 times. Each time, $200 per contract available. 28 to 38 is 10 points. $20 a point. $200 per contract. If you were trailing your stop, if you did not exit at the hard target, if you let it draw down on you and then showed you profits and let it draw down on you again, or maybe you only took this one. That's a possibility. Because of whatever part of the world you're in and whatever time you begin your trading. Some people wake up to trade, Others come home from work to trade. There's a million stories in the Naked City. We put in a high here at 74.85. Oh, so from, well, even call it 35. 35 to 85, what is that, 50 points? That's $1,000 per contract. So this little trade idea here, it germinated once, twice, 3 times, and ultimately went on to be $1,000 per contract trade idea. If you simply took your profit at 38, that bill's for you, because you had a plan and you stuck to your plan, and you're not looking at this with any remorse. You're not sitting there going, well, I got to change my way of doing things. Well, you know, that's one trade. Now, if over a larger sample size, if over a series of trades, if a pattern begins to emerge, not something you heard in a seminar or heard on the radio or read in a book, but something you experienced in real life, if that kind of a pattern starts to emerge, then you should take a look at what your trading plan that you wrote with your hand and our help dictates. Okay? In fact, it should be written into your plan that every 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 3 weeks, whatever floats your boat, you're going to revisit each one of the rules in your plan. You're going to have a meeting of one, as Red Skeleton used to say. You're going to have a meeting of one and go through that plan. It's been 3 months now since you originally wrote it. And you know where you're at with your progress on the 2420 blueprint. You objectively, not while you're trading, not even with the charts open. You go through that list of rules that you wrote with your own hand for your own trading business. Is this serving me well? Check. Is this serving me well? Check. You come across something that's not serving you well, then it either needs to be modified or removed. If it's not helping you, if it's not contributing to your profitability, it's got to change. It's either got to go away, it's got to be modified. When you reach that point, that's again a great reason to have access to unlimited one-on-one personal mentoring, because you can have someone help you share their opinion with you. Now, if you ask 10 different people what they think about something, you will eventually find someone who agrees with you. Okay? So we have to be careful with that. Not only who we ask, but how many we ask. Again, if you ask enough people, you'll eventually find someone who agrees with you. So if 9 people disagree and then the 10th one goes, oh yeah, man, you nailed it. You're absolutely right. Ah, you feel vindicated. You can hear the heavenly host singing in the background. I knew it. I knew I was right. But wait a minute. 9 people just tell you you're nuts. Yeah, but me and this guy, we know. Okay. It's just a little, and that's not just about trading. That's about life in general. So, okie doke. It has been a fabulous Wednesday. Thanks for spending time. Hey, David. Well, now, David, that's a hard question. I've been away from trading for about 6 months just due to life and work. Is it easy to get back into it again? Well, it's simple. I don't know that it's easy. trading has no easy button that I've been able to find. But tell me in what regards, David, when you say I've been trading for about 6 months, is it easy to get back into it again? I'm trying to put myself in your shoes and figure out what question. I mean, is it easy to open the charts? Is it easy to remember how to operate the DOM? Is it easy? Elaborate just a little bit. Give me a little more information. Now, another piece of information that I don't have, I've been away from trading for about 6 months, but what I don't know is how long you were trading before that. So that would, you know, that would weigh on the answer, I suppose. Oh, I haven't even opened my Ninja Trader for 6 months. I've done basically nothing in regards to trading. Okay, so you were trading for a year, and for 6 months you haven't opened your platform. It's a bit like riding a bicycle. Wherever you left off, that's where you'll pick right back up. Does that make sense? I mean, you'll have to reacquaint yourself with the charting platform, and so is that going to take a little time, a little energy? Yeah, it will. But I would think that if you had a year's experience before your 6-month hiatus, I would say 3-4 days you'll get reacclimated, refamiliarized with everything, and you'll be back to, within a few days you'll be right back to where you left off. If you were consistently profitable, you'll pick right back up. If you were not yet consistently profitable, if you were in the process of learning how to trade, if you were learning how to be consistently profitable, if you were learning how to think in probabilities and how to exercise self-discipline, all of those things, you'll pick right back up there, and you'll continue that learning process. And of course, whatever we can do to help you, well, no need to be nervous, because you're going to trade in the simulator until you show consistent profitability, right? I should take the nervousness right out of it. If you're not going to trade in the simulator, then you probably do have a reason to be nervous. But if you're going to do the right thing, which is to, if you were, $1 million trader and you'd been off for 6 months, I would still tell you, spend a couple days in sim, just get reacclimated to everything. There is, we're looking for high probability, low risk opportunities. You just have to reacclimate yourself to that, and you'll be fine. So if you needed help when you stopped 6 months ago, you still need some help. If you were doing just fine, after a few days in the simulator, your confidence will be there. You won't be nervous, okay? And don't go large, go small. If you were trading 5 contracts before or 10 contracts before, after a couple of days in sim, go live with 1, see how that feels for a couple of days, and then work your way right back up. You're welcome. And if there's anything, like I say, if there's anything I can do to help, if you need a one-on-one mentoring session, just go to the website and book it, okay? And I'll be happy to help you. Bill, no one can see what you type. Type in your number, and I will call you here in a little bit, right after the show. And I'm getting ready to sign off. So I got 2 people I got to call. I got to call Gary and I got to call Bill. Just type it in the chat box there, Bill. Let's see. Okay. All right, I'll be giving you and Gary both a call. All right, guys, that's it. Gonna wrap. Gotta get up and go. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.